Good morning, Trojans. This is Mr. Benson in Corona Isolation here in Petaluma. Hope you all are safe and well. We're going to try this remote learning. I will make a couple short videos and see if we learn something this way. All right. Beta test, remote learning video. Swapping performance brakes onto Mr. Benson's high school truck. So some of the tools we're going to need to do the job is we need an impactor to take the tires off and the sockets to do so, and some tools to pull the calipers off, and of course our torque wrench to make sure everything's tightened to correct torque. And we need some brake bottles to bleed the brakes when we're done. Okay, so first thing we need to do is get our tires off. This one has a wheel lock key. It's a little adapter that has special teeth in it to slow people down from stealing your wheels. So that goes in there. Take our impactor. Goes on there pretty tight. And you get that off. You see how that's designed there? It's got these special teeth. So you wouldn't want anybody stealing your wheels. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and take the rest off. Okay, gotten the wheel off. You can see there's a lot of corrosion on the surface of that disc. And that can make the seating of your wheel a little temperamental. So these brakes actually have a lot of life left. I replaced them about 100,000 miles, so they go about 30,000 miles. But we're going to replace them anyway with the new stuff. I turned the wheel, as you can see. It makes it easier to get to the bolts. So we're going to have taken, there's two 19 millimeters back here, this bolt here, and there's another one down here, that one right there, and that'll make the caliper come right off. And then we have to take our brake line off. All right, so to take our brake line off, to make it a little bit less messy, I've got a special tool that's going to clamp onto the hose. This is a rubber hose, and I'm going to squeeze it, and it's going to pinch it off. And hopefully that'll stop the fluid flow, so when we open this up, we'll get just a little bit of fluid. We don't want a big mess. Brake fluid's not fun. It turns things, takes paint off, and I don't want to get the paint off my rack. It's got a lot of acid in it, so we don't want to do that. All right, so I placed the pan underneath, a nasty pan, and I got my 11 millimeter, and I'm going to crack the brake line free. You'll probably get just a little fluid, hopefully just a little fluid coming out. It's got some copper washers. The new kit has some new ones. So we want to keep track of those. Move the line to the side here. It looks like for the most part our fluid flow is not dripping, so it means that our pliers worked. Okay, so I'm going to take off those bolts and I'll show you the next step. Okay, I got the bolt loose and our caliper, excuse me for a second. Got our caliper coming out. Sometimes you gotta rock them a little bit. And there it is. Caliper is off, it's dripping fluid, so be cautious of that. I'm gonna set it right here. And note our bolts have this little plastic stuff on it. We need to clean that out with a wire wheel. That's called Loctite. They use a blue Loctite, which is you're able to take apart with wrenches without heat. And we want to make sure we put that back on when we torque our caliper on. So there's what our rotor looks like. This one's probably going to need a little persuasion with the hammer to come off. Looks like there's quite a bit of rust. So let me go grab the hammer and we'll do that. It's stuck on there pretty good, so I had to take the hammer and hit it a couple times to loosen it up, and it broke that rust free. So this just slips right over the studs, comes off like so. And then you have your bearing assembly. And I'm going to clean all this up with a wire brush to make sure it's nice and clean before we go back together. All right, I cleaned it off a little bit. I'm going to do a test fit with the new rotor. Give me a moment. It's hard to hold the camera at the same time when you're by yourself. So it looks like it goes on good and it fits well. I'm gonna take it back off and give it a brake clean bath. A lot of times they're packed with a little surface oil to keep them from rusting in the box. And I also want to take that sticker off. We don't want it holding up our wheel. All right, so I'll take care of that. So next we're gonna load our calipers with our pads. So it comes with a little bit of lube here on the slides. I'm gonna add just a little bit there. Our sliding parts. We don't want to use a lot because we don't want it to get everywhere all of their brake pads. Okay, and this is all new stuff, but a lot of times you need to lube the pins and here so they slide on there easy. Okay. Next step is clean the bolts like I have done, and then you add some of the Loctite blue. So Loctite is a liquid plastic that'll harden, and this one is from Permatex. You can see here on the ends where it's going to slide, add just a little lubrication. Some people tell you not to. I've done it for decades like this and never had a problem or come back because of brake squeak. So I'm going to stick with what I know. Sometimes I put a little bit on the back part here where it rubs too. Keeps the vibration noise down so you're not brake squeaking. So I installed the caliper, well, partially. They sit on these pins, and unfortunately, while I was trying to hold the caliper and videotape at the same time, I dropped it on the floor and bent my pin pretty bad. So I'm going to have to source a new one. That's how it goes sometimes with this stuff, you know? So that's why you got to take your time. Try not to be videotaping for your class, but we'll overcome it somehow. So like I said, I dropped one of the bolts. I'm just going to take the factory bolt, which is this one here, and it's actually, I measured it, it's dimensionally the same. Can't really stick it side by side while holding the camera. But look at, here's another lesson. It seems to be a higher quality metal. I want you to listen to the one that came with the kit that bent, and then the factory one. Listen to that. So I had an engineering metallurgy guy once tell me, show me difference in wrenches when you dropped it and bolts, and the higher the pitch, usually the better the hardening quality is. So I'm going to go off the stock bolts on all the calipers. All right, our caliper debacle is done. We got our original stock style bolts back in and everything's fine there. It slides perfect. Now we need to put our line back on. So I got our caliper. It's called a banjo bolt. You see it's kind of hard to see. It's hollow in the center, and then it has little holes that allow the brake fluid to go. And they call it a banjo bolt. But we need to put some gaskets on it. So the gaskets are made out of soft copper. So we're going to put one here. It's hard to do through a camera. Grab our brake line. Make sure the old ones come off. The old copper washers are still on there. Try to pick those off with my fingers. And I'll have to use a little pry bar or something. Give me a moment. All right, we got the copper washer off. So you can see it's got little ridges in there, and then there's the hole. So that hole is where the fluid comes out, goes into this hole, comes out that one, and goes to our pistons, which pushes our brake pads together. All right, so we're gonna put this one there. We're gonna make sure there's a copper washer on the bottom. That's what the copper washer looks like, okay? These are theoretically one-time use, by the way. Once they're crushed, they usually don't typically crush any further. Okay, so if you take your brakes apart, you should buy new ones. They're not expensive at all. Okay, find my wrench to tighten that up. And we're just gonna go snug because we haven't looked up the torque spec yet, but I just want to keep it from leaking right now. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go look in the book for our torque specs of all the different bolts that we took out of here and make sure it's all tight before we bleed this side. So here I have my shop manual. There's 3 series to just this one year of trucks for $99. So you can imagine how much information before they went computer was all in these books. So the first thing we do is we're going to go to the first couple pages and find out where our brakes are. And we're going to look down our list of the table of contents until, oh, there's our brakes. So brakes start at 5.1. So open the 5.1. And it's going to tell us the things we need. And hydraulic brakes, fastener specifications, right here is what we're looking for. Turn the page, first page. And brake hose, 2 caliper bolt, front, 1500 and 250 series is 38 pounds. So now we know our brake banjo bolt is supposed to be 38 pounds. All right, so next we need our caliper specifications. So we're going to find disc brakes. Fastener tightening specifications is on 543. So we're going to turn to 543 and look down. And lo and behold, there is what we want. So caliper mounting bracket to knuckle, 15 series. We're looking for 129 foot-pounds. And then our guide bolt, that the one that I bent earlier, looks like the front is 80 foot-pounds right over here. Okay, so that's how you want to look those up. So now we know all 3 torque specs for the front. All right, I torqued the caliper bolts. It was too hard to hold the camera while torquing, so I did the 38, the 80, and then inside the one, these ones were 129. So now we need to bleed the brakes. I'm going to gravity bleed them at first, help get things started, get all the air out. The reason why we got to bleed the brakes, we can't have any air in the system. Air is compressible, so if we leave air in there, we'll have a really bad pedal and poor braking. So to make it clean, I have what's called a brake bottle. It has a long tube inside that goes to the bottom of the container, and that way, when you go to press the brake pedal, it's called a one-man bleeder, and it won't suck air back in once the fluid's full in the bottom. So it's kind of a nice, convenient little bottle. You can buy them on Amazon. They're like, I think, 10 bucks or something. So it makes the job a lot easier. All right, so I'm going to crack the bleeder open here. Notice it's at the top of the caliper because that's where the air is going to go. So we're going to crack that. And eventually, it'll take a while because calipers have never been on a car. And we should get some fluid flow. So I'll pause the video until we get some fluid in the bottom there. So I got the one-man bleeder set up, and I'm going to pump the pedal. Don't go all the way to the floor because you don't want to override your master cylinder. All the crud is inside there. Otherwise, you might be replacing that like we talked about earlier this year. Just trying to push some more fluid through there, get all the air out. And then we'll go back over there and close the valve. That's about all it takes. Okay. Back at our caliper, you can see we got fluid now in there. And we're going to shut that for now. When I'm all said and done, I'm going to rebleed the system and flush the brakes really good. But right now, just trying to get a good pedal. So we're just going to do that, okay? And we'll clean it all off when we're done.